Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today's video and audio guest is a native Floridian who was part of the 2012 Etsy boom, creating one of the top Etsy wedding sign shops, Z Create Design, and has since expanded the line of custom products to larger-than-life backdrops and installations for weddings and parties with golden hour rentals. She started competing in March of 2020, days before the world shut down, actually, and she placed second in Open, followed by 2 first-place wins in fall of 2021 before winning her pro card at Masters Nationals in Pittsburgh in 2023. This athlete is always balancing entrepreneurship and fitness with motherhood as the mom of 2 young boys. And she is someone I have personally met and just absolutely love so much. And she inspires me greatly. So I'm excited to have her on the podcast. So welcome to the show, Holly Zarski. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I'm so happy you're here too. Like I said, before we started recording, you guys, we were talking about how it's crazy. We literally met a year ago, almost to the day. It was like a year and a couple days. And I just knew that Holly was someone so special. And I'm happy that we're here. And I remember you telling me you had been taking notes for this podcast one day. Like, what would I say on the podcast? And now we're here. So it's so awesome to have you.
Thank you. I know it's so crazy. It's definitely something I've thought a lot about. Sometimes I'm even listening to your podcast and my brain starts thinking about like how I would answer the question that you asked the person. And I start like wandering off, and then I have to like stop myself and rewind because I wasn't even listening. I was like answering the question in my head. So now I can answer it for real.
And now we're here and I'm asking you the questions that apply to you and your story. And honestly, like, doing this is so amazing for me and fulfilling, but hearing stuff like that just makes it that much sweeter because I'm sure there's other people. I actually know because I've been told by other people that they do the same thing with hearing the question and answering it in their head. So, the first question, which is there anything you do or ritual you have right before your heel hits the stage?
So usually I'm just crazy nervous. And when I'm nervous, I kind of clam up. So I just kind of move my body around and I'm just kind of trying to like shake out the nerves. And I'll, say a little prayer in my head. Thank you for allowing me to do something like this. And please give me strength on stage and for me not to trip. And yeah, I think all the time I think about my dad before I go on stage. He passed away a few years ago, and I just think about how proud he would be of me, because fitness was something that was very important to him, health. And so I think that he would be super proud of me. So yeah, that's pretty much what I do.
I love that. And honestly, like, bringing your dad through that journey with you, like through his legacy that he left with health and fitness being a priority, I can imagine that would be really calming in times of high nerves and stress to just know, like, if anything from today, I know I made him proud.
Yeah, definitely. It's always something that I think about, even when I'm like at the gym training and I'm like doing an exercise and I'm like trying to get that last rep in. Sometimes I'm like, just think like that your dad would want you to do it. And sometimes it works. Sometimes I can't.
Yeah, no, I get that. I when my mom passed, I was like, there's nothing more painful than that feeling. So I can endure anything in the gym. And sometimes though, there are some pains in the gym. They don't compare on an emotional level, but on a physical level, it can be pretty challenging. But I think having those people that we love as motivators in our life is such a beautiful thing, whether they're here or not. And I was actually curious how your dad has been an example or was an example to you growing up and how that affected your choices.
Um, well, so he was not a bodybuilder and he didn't go to the gym, but he had a set of weights and a bench, and like a recumbent bike, outside on the porch. And he woke up every day, religiously at 5 a.m. I would hear him getting up in the morning and going outside to do his exercises. And, so I definitely had the example set for me of somebody having the discipline, to do something like that every day. And he was very meticulous with his eating and, always had like his fruits in the morning and just generally led a very healthy lifestyle, which set a pretty good example for me. So yeah, it was something that I didn't realize at the time was a good example, but looking back, I think it definitely shaped how I see discipline and prioritizing self-care as being something important to do.
Absolutely, especially as a parent too, like you now have that parent perspective where you could probably see your dad was waking up early because he knew that was his time to get it done before the rest of the day came on.
Yeah, for sure. I wish I could do that, but I can't. My kids uh, they're little still, and they are a pain in the butt to get to bed at night. So usually by the time we get them in bed, we're just like, we need our alone time and time to like kind of reset our brains. So yeah, by the time we get ourselves in bed, like there is no way I'm waking up at 5 a.m. Maybe as they get a little bit older and they're a little more self-sufficient. But yeah, so I'm not doing that anytime soon. But I will get to the gym every day. So
Yes, you have made that a priority. And how old are your kids?
one's 5 and one's 10.
Okay, yeah, so they're still so young and yet like very creative and probably active and energized and
Oh
excited
yeah.
about what they can do.
Yes, yeah, they are crazy. Um, the 10-year-old, he's got like some behavioral things which makes him a little extra crazy. And then my 5-year-old, he's for the most part a very easy kid. But because the older one is so crazy and he sets the example to the younger one, like he wants to be like his brother, so he copies a lot of the crazy things. So I feel like I need my alone time from them more because they are a little extra challenging. And boys just in general tend to be like little tornadoes. So
Well, I love your realness because I think that it's oftentimes glamorized, but when mothers are transparent about their experiences, I think it allows other women to be like, okay, I'm not like wrong or I'm not bad or I'm not out of the norm for thinking this way, that I need this space or I need to prioritize myself. And I've had other moms on the podcast who talk about how bodybuilding has been a way that they can prioritize themselves. How has it affected maybe your outlook on putting yourself first at times?
so it definitely is something that I have come to realize that I need, because of the family dynamic with them. Um, when you're a mom, your needs tend to come last. Um, and the mornings are crazy. I wish I could just get up and focus on myself and get ready and go straight to the gym, but I can't. I have to make sure the kids are up out of bed, which is a challenge in itself, and then make sure they're fed. And then, my husband has to get ready so he can take them to school. So really my part of the morning is last once everybody else is out the door. And just in life in general, all of their needs tend to come first, just just by default of just the way our days work. So I think that's something that attracted me to the competition lifestyle, is that it finally gave me something to where I could put myself first, and like had a reason to kind of vie for that for myself, like I could be like, I have to go to the gym this morning because I'm on prep. So therefore you're going to have to, to my husband, you're going to have to do X, Y, and Z this morning because I'm running a bit late and I have to get this done. Or, when we get home from school, the kids get home from school, my husband gets home from work, I'd be like, hey, you need to watch the kids because I got to go upstairs and do some cardio on the treadmill. And so it gave me like an excuse, it gave me like a reason to have to put my needs first, when I think a lot of times as moms, we put our needs last. And I think we all need something like that. Even if it's not bodybuilding per se, we need something to remember that we're people too, and that we have needs, and that sometimes it's okay for us to still be first, and I think it's important for our kids to see that too, that we want them to be able to see us as people, or else, then they just see us as like they're slaves all day.
Yeah.
So it gives them, I think, a wider view of the world, and like maybe helps them see that it's not all about them sometimes too, so
Yeah.
I think in that way it's helped me kind of balance motherhood with still taking care of myself mentally and physically.
Definitely. Yeah, I think too, as you said, it's a good example for the kids to see. Like, I think about my own parents, and I'm like, okay, I saw the way that my dad prioritized himself, and I saw how my mom did. And my mom struggled a lot more to do that. And I see how that affected both of them, right? So I think when you set that example of prioritization of other things that you enjoy, and then as your kids get older, like I know now that I'm older, I'm like, my parents are people like
Yeah,
me.
right.
They're like, this is weird, but like it kind of hits you as you get older, like you start going through high school and you're starting to become more independent, and you're like, they had to go through all of this too, and it starts to put things in perspective. So what do your boys think about your lifestyle?
I think honestly, for a few years, they didn't really understand it and didn't really know what was going on. Probably didn't really care too much because they're young and just thinking about cartoons and video games and friends. And, they're like, why is mom walking around in a bikini? This is weird. But this year I did have them come to one of the shows. And we were really nervous about how it was going to go. I was like, oh my God, they're going to be like so bored in the audience. And my older son was like, I don't want to look at girls' butts. But then they came and they actually had like such a good time. And afterward, I feel like they started, or the older one, mostly, not the younger one, but my 10-year-old, he started treating me a little bit differently. He was almost like more respectful and like, asked more questions and was more respectful about like what I was doing. And, it's like, he just gained like a fuller understanding of like why I'm going to the gym and why I'm practicing posing in the bikini on the porch with a camera in front of me, and like, why I'm prepping meals and just doing things that may seem a little bit weird. It gave him a little bit more of an understanding, and I feel like it connected us more. And even still, like at first it was like a very like obvious change in how he was like talking to me and treating the whole thing. And now I still feel like he just respects the whole process a lot more, which is pretty cool. And, I don't know if it's something that they'll get into when they're older, and they definitely don't have to. It's not something I'm ever going to push on them, but for them to like appreciate and respect what I'm doing, and to appreciate and respect discipline and hard work, I think is pretty cool. And I'm glad that I had them come to the show so that they could, you know, experience it and get those feelings. So
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that they had such a good time too.
I know.
And
I'm
like,
surprised.
what did they think about seeing? Because it's not just women. This wasn't an all women show, right? It was like,
No, yeah, it was the Ty Pope show in Orlando, which was an amazing show. I can't recommend that show more. The photographer was amazing, the production, it was a really good show. And yeah, they had it was entertaining enough for them to where they sat through the whole show without, going crazy. And yeah, they had a really good time. They liked seeing the muscles. It's so funny. The next few days when we were at home, they were both laying on the floor in the kitchen doing sit-ups.
oh my gosh, that's awesome.
They're like, "What?" I was like, mommy. It was the cutest thing.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that they got to see and witness, like, this is what it's all for. Like, mom is actually displaying her hard work, her dedication, her discipline. And there's a reason she's doing all this. She's not just, crazy or wanting to, but it's because it's paying off in some way for her. And they probably saw how happy it makes you and what it brings your life. And it's amazing that they've gained a newfound respect for you and they're excited about you pursuing it. Do they ask certain questions about it, or have, like, what did you notice change that made you go, yeah, they respect this a bit more?
I don't know. It was just the way that they were talking to me about it. Trying to think in particular. It's just I can't think of any like exact examples, but it's just like the vibe was more like more respectful and like excited to like hear about what I was doing, because it was the show. I think was there 2 weeks between shows or 1 week? I can't remember. But it was the show right before I did my national show for the pro card. So then they were more invested in that and like just more excited to kind of hear about how I did and to like see, because we had to go out of town for that. So it was over like FaceTimes, and they were more excited to be like, how'd you do? Like, whereas before they're just kind of like, hi, I'm going to go play with my video games. Now they were more like asking questions on like how I did and if I was excited and stuff.
Oh, cool. Oh, that's awesome. And then you came home a professional athlete and they're like, what?
Yeah, yeah. I don't think they're old enough to really like ask in-depth questions about it, maybe as they get older, they'll start asking more things. But I try to instill in them like, you got to eat protein if you want to get like, don't skimp on your food. You got to eat food and you got to eat your protein and eat your carbs for energy. I don't want them to think like dieting, so, probably something that we'll have to navigate more as they get older. Luckily they're boys. Like I'm so glad that I don't have girls to deal with, because that would be really hard.
It's harder. Like, it's hard. I think both men and women are affected, right, by body image and diet influences, but it's just on a different level. Like, men are usually being told to get bigger and stronger and more muscular, and women, we kind of are more subjected to the get smaller principle. And I know that was something that affected you growing up. Like, you actually saw your mom going to extremes and dieting and manipulating her food in particular ways. So how did seeing your mom behave in that way affect your own personal outlook on yourself?
So my mom always struggled with her weight. And I remember her like trying Weight Watchers and just different like fad diets. And I remember her making like a 0 point soup one time, which was like all vegetables. And she was like so excited to make it with me. And so it was like a weird dynamic. Like my mom struggled with her weight. And then there was my dad, who, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. And then my dad was an attorney. He was like the boss at work. And so he was very meticulous with his, exercises and his foods. And so like, I could see how it created like some, struggles in their marriage a little bit, and like maybe some like contempt between them. And, I could see that he treated her differently because she couldn't get control over her weight, and so that, I think seeing that, and I don't think I realized at the time that that's what it was, but like looking back, I definitely for a long time associated like not having control over your weight or not having control over those parts of your life with being deserving of love, and just that's something that you need to do, that you need to be able to control your weight. And so and then also like that was maybe a small piece of it. I mean, I feel like things are very like multifaceted sometimes, especially when it comes to mental health. And so then there's also this pressure of peers and school. And then like at the time, like it was like the early 2000s. So pop culture was very thin, it was like Paris Hilton and all of the like model look was in. So that all had a pretty big impact on me in like junior high and high school. I remember in junior high, like some of my friends making fun of me because I had like cellulite on my legs. And I honestly, my body was kind of similar to like my size now. Like I was not like overweight, but they made fun of me and it resonated. And so then when I started high school, I lost a lot of weight one summer, just kind of from like restricting food. And I had such like positive feedback from people. Like boys started looking at me and girls started wanting to hang out with me. And I had like all this positive reinforcement that it just made me want to restrict more. And I ended up not like a severe anorexia. I wasn't ever like, I didn't get like major health problems from it, but it definitely was headed in that direction, I think. And to a point where my mom did get scared at one point and took me to the doctor. And the doctor was like, she's fine. She's just a skinny girl. So, but I think after that, like she was more like on to me, trying to give me more food. But because she didn't understand healthy eating, even like for herself, like she wasn't giving me healthy foods. She was like we always had really junky snacks around the house, and like squeezed cheese and just like processed things, and KFC was a regular at our house. And like I wasn't getting healthy examples on how to like healthily gain weight, So then she's trying to push these foods and eating a lot on me. And so then it turned into binging and purging, because suddenly I'm eating more food and it's not the foods that I want to be eating. And things just got kind of out of control for a really long time. So, and that lasted like maybe a good like 9 years, off and on. So, but then, and I think what started out as something trying to keep my body smaller, turned into a way of coping with stress. As you are going through high school and then just life, and more stresses, it just became a way of dealing with stress, maybe more so than, keeping my body a certain way. And then I think it was when I was planning my wedding, that I started becoming like really, really forgetful and like not being able to like finish my tasks. And like I was working at the time, and I remember like I was given some responsibilities and I like completely forgot like throughout the day. And someone was asking me like, oh, do you have X and X? And I'm like, oh my God, like I didn't remember. I don't even know how I forgot. It's been like sitting in front of me. And so it kind of like prompted me to go to the doctor, and I did the little like questionnaire for ADD, and I had like every single box was checked off. Like, do you have those things? Yes. And are you messy? Yes. And just like all of the things. So I was put on medication for ADD, and surprisingly, it was so weird. It was like a light switch for the eating disorder. Like I suddenly had no urges to binge eat, no urges to get rid of the food that I had eaten. It was so weird. And it turns out that that medication that I was put on actually is prescribed for binge eating disorder as well. So it was like two birds, one stone. So yeah, that was kind of a life-changing realization. And then like in hindsight, if I think back to like when I was in high school and like the messiness of my room and stuff like it, honestly, someone should have noticed earlier that I had ADD. So it's something that I still take, and it definitely helped me in both of those ways. So I'm grateful for that for sure.
Absolutely. So you found your mother was an interesting example because she struggled to know how to nourish her own body, and those behaviors influenced your own behaviors as well because you were being fed things that probably were highly palatable but not exactly what you needed, and so it would have that type of effect as well, and then wanting to get rid of it because your peers are telling you how much better you look when you're getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I think a lot of people misunderstand that, like, we can conceptualize that our physique and our body is not everything. We can conceptualize this, but there is a strong correlation between, unfortunately, there's a strong correlation between how we look and how we're perceived and how people treat us. And when this happens growing up, it changes how we view ourselves. It changes how we view our body. And if our food choices are negative, but they're creating a positive impact on our body and therefore on our community that we think we're fitting into, it's like positive reinforcement. As you said, it's a reward. It's like, okay, maybe this isn't a bad thing, even though it doesn't feel good. Maybe it's not a bad thing because it's helping me get here. And we see some of those parallels with bodybuilding. We see, I mean, I personally work with so many women who struggle with this, and it's like we see this reward of restriction, and it's rewarded with maybe trophies, medals, accolades, social media attention, but then we see the negative side of that come out maybe later. Maybe there's binging, maybe there's a lot of self-judgment and criticism, and then we come to find out that the way that this person was approaching it actually could have been done much healthier, much better, but because of the approach they took being positively reinforced, it created such a negative cycle. And I find it really fascinating that for you actually, it wasn't the food necessarily that inspired you to go to the doctor. It wasn't those behaviors. It was the inability to focus. And you had a lot of stress in your life at the time. You were planning your wedding as well. So you found out you had ADD. You got on medication that you still take to this day that supports the ADD and supported the binge eating behaviors. What changed after that with how you started to cope with stress or how you learned to manage those types of stressful situations? And how did it affect how you then created a whole, because I imagine then how do you learn to eat when you weren't taught how to eat and you were binging and purging before? So what changed there?
I think it's something that I've had to kind of teach myself throughout the years, nutrition and um, it, it's been a process. I feel like I feel like it wasn't until I fell into the bodybuilding space that I really learned the right way to be eating. So I had both of my kids, and then after I had my second son, I was trying to drop the baby weight, and I was doing like HIIT workouts, and it was making me drop the baby weight, but my body um shape was still shapeless, like I was dropping the weight, but just getting like a smaller version of the same body. So then one of my husband's friends recommended like weightlifting. So I started researching it. I get like crazy tunnel vision with certain things, and probably the ADD. But I started researching it like crazy, and like following a bunch of people on Instagram, and so I downloaded this app called the Transform app. And that app, that was so awesome. It gave me workouts, and it gave me macros, and it taught me like how to use macros, and it gave me example meals and example meal like plans and grocery lists and everything. And so it really taught me, I feel like that's where I learned the basis of nutrition. And like the things that I should be eating. And then once I started doing it, it kind of was like light bulbs of like, okay, if you eat a healthy breakfast and you eat a healthy lunch and, a snack, you're going to be satiated to where you don't go crazy at dinner time, and you don't feel the need to eat an entire carton of ice cream because your body has been, filled all day. It like broke the cycle for me a little bit of, the restriction kind of thing. So, so I feel like that's where I learned the basis of macros and the way that I should be eating, like sometimes a meal, like it's funny because I would never have imagined eating like a lunch that looks like a dinner. Back then, like I would think of lunch as like a sandwich or something like that, and not a vegetable and a carb and a meat. But now my lunch is like every meal looks like a Thanksgiving.
Yes, exactly.
And that's like the way that it should be, especially when you're gluten free. There's a lot of rice and potatoes. But yeah, so I feel like that app in particular gave me a really good platform to learn off of. And then once I started working with boss bodies and having an actual coach, like then I already had that knowledge under my belt for my coach to give me macros, and then I knew what to do with them, and I knew the correct way to be forming my meals with those numbers.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's super awesome that you were able to relearn in such a positive way, because sometimes you start going on Instagram, you start going online, and you don't learn in the most positive ways. So I'm so glad that you did. And you mentioned too that one of your husband's friends encouraged you to start weightlifting as well. And eventually you did start working with boss bodies. But how did that come about? Like, how did you go from I'm going to the gym, they have childcare, and I'm able to explore this world and start training to I'm gonna go enter a competition?
Well, so I think I definitely have one of those extreme personalities. And so my good friend is Marianne Parks, who's also a competitor. And
Also been
she,
on the show, everybody. She's
yeah. So she actually started her journey about that time. And my husband and I, and then her and her boyfriend, we all went out to dinner one time while she was like just starting her prep. And so I remember like talking to her about it, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to do one of those bikini shows." I'm like, "Oh, like with the sparkly bikinis?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh my God, I thought like only celebrities do that." Like, like I had seen them before, but I never associated it as something like that us normal people could do,
Yeah.
So that like intrigued me as to like, oh, wait a minute. Like if she could do it, like maybe I could do it. So was following what she was doing, and like started following a lot of competitors online. And then when she went to do her show, I went along with her. And so I got to see a show in person, and it just kind of made me like even more excited of like, oh my God, maybe this is something that I could do. And at that show, there were some like vendor booths set up, and Boss Bodies had one set up, and they had like a little raffle that you could put your name in. So I was like, I'm just going to throw my name in here. And they called me the next day and they're like, you won the raffle. I'm like, what? And it was just for like a discount on one of their packages. Honestly, I thought they called everybody, which would have been a good marketing plan.
Yeah.
So I remember I texted Marianne, I'm like, did you win too? Because I won. And she's like, no. So I got a discount on a package, and I talked to my husband about it, and I'm like, this is something that I think I really want to do. And he was, I mean, when you buy those packages, it is a pretty big financial outlay. I mean, it does last a long time, but like, especially for when it's something new, and like, my husband's not a competitor. And so it was like something that we had to really like talk about. And I had to really be like, okay, I'm serious about this. So I ended up doing it. And I just signed up as like lifestyle client. In the back of my head, I thought like, okay, I do maybe want to compete one day, but I just signed up as like lifestyle, maybe because I didn't quite believe in myself yet, but yeah, I signed up as lifestyle. And then 6 months in, my coach and I were talking, and I'm like, maybe I want to do a competition. And she's like, yeah. So then we started, I think it was like 6 months of building. And then we started a prep for my first show. So yeah, that's how it got started.
I love that. I love how it evolved fairly naturally too. Like your interest and intrigue just grew as you got more exposure to it, and then you went all in on it. And you had started actually with a building phase, you said. So talk to us about how your building phases have contributed to the athlete you've become, and ultimately your success in earning your pro card.
So I'm very glad that I did that initial 6 months-ish of building, because I don't have an athletic background. So no, not really much athletic background. And then on top of that, having 2 kids, and the second child, I was on bed rest for most of that. So like any little muscles I might have had from like, running back in the day and stuff, definitely like atrophied. And it was just, so I needed that time, to build muscle back up, and I'm glad that I did it. And my first prep was, I think it was 8 weeks. I think because it was so fresh onto my body, like the weight just kind of like dropped pretty easily. And we had worked my calories up too. Beth Hall was my first coach, and she was amazing. And she was so understanding with things, and just she was really wonderful. And worked my calories high. And there were times that I was like, I don't know, I'm feeling kind of uncomfortable. And she'd be like, it's fine. Don't worry. You look amazing. You're going to want your calories to be higher when we start prep. And so that was great. We never really had to go very low. I think the lowest that I ever got in that first prep was like 1,200 calories. And that was for like a very short amount of time. So yeah, that one was a pretty good one. And then, at that first show, I placed second in open and second in novice, I think. Or yeah, something like that. And yeah, so that just made me like, okay, so I belong here. It made me feel like, okay, this is something that I actually can do, and I could actually be really good at. So then so because it was 2020, it was actually March 13th or 14th, 2020. Like literally while we were driving to the show, we were waiting for emails to come through on whether the show was going to happen or not. And luckily it still did happen, although the chairs were like spaced further apart. And I feel like maybe some of like the lighting didn't show up and stuff. Like it was like everybody was weird,
Yeah.
So I wasn't even able to do a show after that if I had wanted to, which was probably a good thing because I didn't need to. I needed the building time. So I reversed while the world was shut down and did like my workouts on my porch. I like scrounged together some workout like some weights and a bench, and I eventually got like a barbell, but it was like a smaller barbell. But it worked. I could do hip thrusts with it. And yeah, so I I was kind of like forced into off season, thank goodness. And then it ended up being like about 18 months that I took off before going into another show. And I'm glad that I took that long. It made a really big difference. I feel like too many people jump into just doing another show and another show. And whereas like if you're getting second place, third place, you need to grow most likely. And especially if it's like a smaller local show. And taking that time, it just will get you where you want to go faster. And while I might not feel good at the time, because competing is so fun, um, it's just the smarter way to do it, you know? So having taken that 18 months off, when I went into my second and third shows, I got first place and first place. And then I could have then been like, okay, well, now I want to do a national show. But my feedback was that I needed bigger glutes. And I was like so lean. Like I was as lean as it was going to get. There was no tightening up.
Yeah.
So, I could have jumped into a national show, but I knew, and we all knew, that I wouldn't have gotten a pro card. So what would have been the point? So I've always been big with my coaches that I never wanted to do a national show like just for the experience. Like I don't want to go spend that money and that time and the stress, just knowing that I'm not going to get a pro card out of it, especially like as long as the days everybody says that they are. I hate waiting in line.
Oh, at North Americans, it was like line, and you thought, oh, I'm next. And then you walk
Mhm.
backstage, you're like, oh, there's 4 classes lined up here. I'm just
Oh
gonna
my
go
God,
wait in
yeah.
line with all of them.
Told me now, yeah. Like we have Disney passes, and like they stopped doing fast passes for the rides. So
Oh, no.
like you have to wait in line now. And oh I'm like, I
I
know. Sometimes I'm like, I don't want to go. I don't like waiting.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah. So yeah, I never wanted to do a national show like just to do it. Like I wanted to do a national show when we knew like the chances were very high of getting a pro card. So even though I got first place in first place, but not an overall, I was like, okay, time for another off season. And we were kind of playing it by ear on like how long it would be, but it ended up being 22 months, which went by like really fast. Like it goes by so fast. So, and I'm glad that I did, because then after that, I did the Thai Pope show in Orlando and I got first place again, but not the overall, which was kind of sad because that was like one of my goals that I wanted. But then I got my pro card
Yeah.
at Masters Nationals. So it paid off. The long off seasons made a really big difference. And even like comparing the picture side to side, like you could see the muscle growth, but like it wasn't like, oh my God, look at that muscle growth. So like I could imagine if I had shortened that by just like 6 months, I probably wouldn't have gotten the pro card, So there really is something to be said about taking your time and putting the time in. That's probably the most important factor when it comes to, building a pro physique.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to be willing to take that extra time. Like, I recently decided to extend my improvement season and probably next year not even step on the national stage unless a judge tells me to, because One, I'm probably not going to compete till the end of next year. And I just want to grow more. It's like you can look at yourself and know like there's more to be done. Or maybe even from a health perspective, like the gut issues I've been dealing with, I'm like, it's not the time. Like it wouldn't even make sense. And I know that's something that you've been going through too after this season, which we will definitely talk about. But I want to get even further into what that 22 months off looked like. So, what were you focusing on and what had to happen for you to really get in that groove for growth for that long, knowing you didn't really know when you would be on stage again?
So I feel like initially after a show, when you start reversing, you're still in the mindset of prep, kind of, to where you want to hit every single workout and hit every single macro and you're gung ho. But then you kind of have to like slow down a little bit and be like, okay, I've got this long off season. Like it doesn't have to be crazy. Like I can give myself a little bit more grace to focus on other parts of life, because you're gonna want to be able to put a focus on those other parts of life so that when you're into your next prep, you can step away from them. You know what I mean? Like there's a season for all of the things. So I think at first I was probably a little bit crazy about still hitting the gym all the time, but then life happened sometimes and that's okay. And I think sometimes I was a little bit hard on myself about not being able to, hit every single workout and do things perfectly, but it was okay. Let's see, I lost my train of thought. So I was still pretty consistent, throughout 2022. And then what year? I don't know. All my years are mashed together at this point.
Yeah.
There was a point where work started getting like really stressful and things with kids started getting like a little extra stressful. And then I got a dog.
Oh boy.
And well, okay, so I had two dogs before and they both passed away. And they both had like separate health problems, and we had to put them both down at the same time. They were the same exact age. They were really, really old. And I only lasted 2 days without a dog. I was like, I could not stop crying for like 2 days. And then so I was on my phone, like looking for puppies for sale. And I found like a lab puppies for sale, just like 45 minutes away. So I got my husband to get in the car with me. I don't know how I got him to come with me because he didn't want to get a dog, but he did. And he's like, we're just going to look. And I mean, of course, that didn't happen. So we ended up bringing home a lab puppy.
Oh.
We were used to like little dogs before. So going from little dogs to a big dog was a really big adjustment. And just that puppy stage on its own was a lot. And I think because my husband didn't want the dog and I did, I felt like really guilty leaving him home alone with the dog. And then my gym also dropped childcare. So like, I, on days that like if I wanted to go to the gym on the weekends, I would have had to leave my husband with the dog and two kids. And I just felt like so guilty about that. So I had to like rearrange my training schedule and then like had to walk the dog every day. And then I don't know, it was just like this additional stress that I didn't realize how stressful it was going to be. And it was like the straw that broke the camel's back. And I burnt myself out. I burnt myself out from like tracking and checking in and just like all the things. So I had to put my plan on hold. I wasn't adhering to things. And I got sick of hearing myself make excuses to my coach. Like every time I checked in, I was like, oh, I didn't hit my macros because of blah, blah, blah. And I've never been that kind of a person to make excuses, and I didn't like hearing that come out of myself. So I was like, you know what? I just need a break. I need to take some time. I don't know how long it will be, but I need I need some time. So I put my plan on hold, and it was like I could decompress a little bit, you know? And I ended up still going to the gym, like still like 4 to 5 times a week, I think. There might have been one week that I went twice. But because I didn't have to like make excuses, or I don't know, the pressures were off. I actually ended up working out like really hard,
Mhm.
maybe like too hard. And I wasn't tracking my food. I gave myself a little break from tracking food, and ate intuitively. Like in hindsight, I probably underate some days because life was just so busy. Um, but it was a good mental break for me. It was something that I needed. So then when I started back up after that, it was like I was recharged and ready to go. And I was hitting my numbers for several months really well. And then I started to like fall off a little bit again. And I remember saying to my coach, I was like, oh, I don't know. I didn't hit my numbers this week. I feel like my motivation is waning. And she's like, well, what if we started a prep? Would that help? And I was like, if you think I'm ready, then all right. So we did. And it was good.
It ended with a pro card.
Yeah. Yeah.
Peace with food without sacrificing your goals as a competitor, because you deserve to have successful preps, productive improvement seasons, and peace of mind year round. I decided to create a free 8-day food relationship coaching series a few years back that over 800 people have gone through, because when your head is cluttered with thoughts of food, eating, guilt, you have a lot less energy to invest into the goals that you truly care about. So this free program was designed to help athletes like yourself develop a healthy relationship with food so you can have your most fulfilling and effective preps, improvement seasons, and lifestyle phases as well. This is an 8-day series that has a video every single day, a full workbook to guide you through every single video, and you can respond to the emails with the work you did and receive direct support and guidance from me personally, which is, of course, something I love to provide to the community. So you're not only going to discover your ideal relationship with food, but you'll also identify detrimental thought and behavior patterns. You'll overcome guilt and shame, so every decision can be made with intention and pride. We will use expectations and reinforcements to seamlessly manipulate your behavior around food to be more positive and aligned with that ideal relationship with food. We'll figure out why you're really craving what you are when you're sleep deep in another jar of peanut butter, or justifying that next cookie, or continuously eating endless bags of rice cakes, whatever it is for you. We'll become crystal clear on why you act, think, and live the way you do, so you can, of course, act, think, and live the way you want to. And we'll come up with some personal commitments that are rooted in positive psychology based on your current season. So this is a psychoeducational course. It is free to anyone and everyone. You can access it at www.celestial.fit/food series and learn more about it, as well as even get a sneak peek into the accessible PDF notebook with the extra resources and guidance through every single workshop along the way. If you do decide to participate in it and you love it, of course, I encourage you to share it with a friend or a teammate or another athlete who may be struggling. Or if you hear about someone's struggle, let them know that this exists.
So amazing, because we often judge and criticize ourselves for needing a break, needing a bit more flexibility, or wanting to really make a full transition into a new season of life. And when it's a part of us, like working out and nourishing our body is a part of us, it's highly unlikely that we're just going to completely let ourselves go. And that's oftentimes the fear. But as you experienced, by giving yourself a bit of space from the regimented format of it, you actually showed up more and you had a bit more peace of mind with the decisions you were making. You were listening to your body more, and it restored you for your next prep. So how have you learned, maybe from that process, or throughout these different seasons, how have you learned to respect the season you're in and sometimes know that, hey, this is a season of more business and work, and maybe this is a season of more gym, maybe this is a season of more flexibility? Like, how have you actually found when to like push, when to pull, when to sacrifice, when to give?
I think honestly, it's still a work in progress for me because ever since that first show in 2020, all the way up until my pro card, I feel like I've put the gym and competing on the forefront. Even during that 9 weeks off, I still went pretty hard, you know? But now, ever since I got my pro card, I actually have had to pull back a lot. And my plan expired with the team I was on and my coaching, and I did not renew it because I have so much else going on in my life right now that I knew I wouldn't be able to put anywhere near 100% toward it. So I am without a coach right now, and focusing on other aspects of my life because I do feel like during this time frame that I put so much focus on competing that I let other parts of my life fall a little bit. And now I have to kind of clean up the mess that I made. I don't think it was like a bad thing necessarily. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I had tried to balance it more, if things would have ended up the way that they are, you know, like if I had tried to have more balance, I probably wouldn't have gotten my pro card, you know? But I definitely need to take some time now to focus on those things that I had put on the back burner, you know? So I'm flipping things around a little bit. I feel like it did have an impact on our business a little bit, which not, I mean, luckily we had built our business to a place where that was okay with us. So I guess it's kind of have to backpedal a little bit. So with our business, we built it to a point where at one point in time we had like 22 employees, and we were always running around with like chickens with their heads cut off, and we were doing really well, and things were just very hectic all the time. But both of our health started to decline because of it. You know, my husband had to go to the hospital a few times. He thought he was having heart attacks, and it turned out to be anxiety and panic. And then this was before getting into bodybuilding. I was never taking care of myself nutritionally and just always stressed out. I think I even had like thinning hair at one point just from stress. So like, there's something to be said for like, not like sometimes it's okay to dial it back a little bit. Like it doesn't have to always, like for a while we were all, you know, let's grow. We want to grow. We want our business to grow and get bigger and just thinking bigger and bigger. But like, it's okay to have something medium or small, you know, and to be able to take care of yourself. So while focusing so much on my health and fitness did have an impact on our business, I think that's okay. I'm okay with it because it allowed us to put more into ourselves, which I think will increase the longevity of our business, you know, because now we can focus on it healthily longer. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, I forget the question.
Actually, that answered it quite well, which was like how you've learned to push and pull and when to give or versus when not to. And it sounds like you're entering a season of restoring things within your business or other areas of your life that maybe took a back seat while you put more of your energy and focus into your prep. And I didn't ask you this earlier, but I should have. Now that you mentioned that, I'm going to. is there anything you would have changed about your last prep or your most recent show or your peaking process or anything like that?
I don't think so. I think that everything ended up the way that it should have. I think it was hard. Um, but I don't think I would change anything with it. I mean, it was tough. And I think that for moms, it's hard. For business owners, it's hard. For mom business owners, it's going to be very hard. And I don't think there's any way to prevent how hard it is going to be, you know? You just have to kind of remember why you're doing it and kind of keep that quote. And I had to keep that quote in my head of I didn't come this far just to come this far. And yeah, so I don't think I would change anything, but it was not easy.
Yeah, no, it's very demanding on its own, let alone adding on top of that all those other roles. Now that you have your pro card and you achieve that goal, how do you feel about it? Like, do you feel that it was worth all of that going and continuously pushing to go further? Do you have plans to go even further in the sport?
So I I feel like everything happens for a reason. And I do feel like sometimes God has certain things happen for you the way that they're meant to happen. If that makes sense. So I feel like the pieces all fell perfectly for me getting my pro card. And part of it maybe is like imposter syndrome. Like and I try to remind myself that I deserve it. But I do feel like I could have had better glutes, bigger glutes. I mean, I feel like we all feel like that, but I do feel like I magically got my pro card with glutes that probably normally would not have gotten them, just because of the way that like the day went. Um, and but I lost my train of thought again. What were we saying?
You were talking about like your next steps and if you're happy with the pro card, if it was worth it, and what you're kind of looking to continue to maybe go after, if anything, from here.
So I feel like I was meant to get my pro card, because if I didn't get my pro card, I would have kept trying. And the other pieces of my life that I was letting fall apart, I needed to focus on them. I feel like my business needed me and my family needs me, and like things were starting to crumble a little bit. And I feel like a little bit like it was God pushing me to like, okay, this part of this chapter of your life is going to have to close, maybe not permanently, but for a little while, because these other things need you. You know what I mean? Because the way that the pro card day or show went, like they ended up, every class had like 17 girls, but then they ended up like adding another class and another height class, and there were only 7 in mine.
Wow.
And so like not that it made it easier to win. I mean, the girls that I was up against were amazing as well. But I just feel like the way that the things felt were like the way that they were meant to happen for me, because I needed to focus on other things. And I'm glad that it did. And I think, I don't know if my journey's done, but for now it has to be. And then also, you know, once I started reversing, I've realized that I have a lot of gut issues that I need to take care of. So I'm having to like really pull myself back to address those things as well. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to be making a pro debut anytime soon. Maybe by the time I'm 40, but We've just got so much going on with our business. Like I need to kind of rev it up a little bit again, like get things. So we're very trend based with our different products, and trends fall off so quickly. So like I need to add new products and kind of spruce things up a bit. And then we're actually moving facilities, and we need to get our efficiency back under control. Like there's a lot of things that I need to focus on, and I need to be present for that. And I feel like my kids maybe need me a little bit more right now too. Especially my 10-year-old, because school is getting like a little bit harder for him. And so I think things happen the way that they're supposed to happen, and that's okay.
Yeah, I love that perspective. So let's talk about your business and let's talk about your family. Because you run this business with your husband, so how has starting and really taking this business to the top with him influenced or impact your marriage?
So for us, it makes us stronger. Like we work so well together. Like we are doing our best as a couple when we are working together. And it's kind of odd, I think, for some people. They're like, if I worked with my significant other, I would just like go crazy. Like it's when we have more time apart from each other that we actually end up fighting more. Maybe because we're not communicating as much. And but when we're together and we're working, like it strengthens us. It's kind of weird. But yeah, we do really well together.
I love that. And how has he been like a rock for you through this journey? Because it's almost, or it has been, maybe it has been 20 years now of you guys being together.
Yeah, we started dating when I was 18, I think. So I got a job working as a waitress at his family's restaurant and a pizza place. He was the pizza guy, all like spinning pizza dough in the air. And so we started out as friends, and then hung out outside of work a couple times, and then started dating, and yeah, we have been together ever since. It's been a really long time, almost 20 years. And we dated for 5 years, I think, and then we're engaged for 2. So yeah, it's been a really long journey, and I feel like we've both allowed each other to grow within our relationship. Like we both are not the same people that we were when we first started dating, but we have loved each other through every stage and been, there for each other. And with the bodybuilding has been, no exception. He's been super supportive. I mean, there have been times that it's tried us for sure. And times when he's not really understood what I'm doing. But he doesn't have to understand it to support it, and he's been so supportive. He tans me. And he gets like serious about the tan. Like he will make sure it's perfect. He's like shining the light at every angle.
Love that.
And yeah, he's been really supportive, and would critique like my posing as far as he knew how to do, and has been with me at every single show. It's not even like a question if he would come. It's like, okay, you're there. And he drove with me to Pittsburgh. He wanted to drive.
Aww.
He's afraid. It's not that he's afraid of flying. Like we've even talked about like him getting a pilot's license, like just for fun. But I think it's more like anxiety around like the whole like TSA and checking in and the lines and like just the anxiety of like the getting on a plane process. So we ended up driving to Pittsburgh.
From Florida, you guys remember this?
Yeah, from Florida. But it ended up being like a fun little road trip for the two of us. And then like every show that we've taken or that we've gone out of town for, has been like a little getaway for us a little bit. So And we're both so like head down into work most of the time that it's kind of forced us to kind of expand our horizons a little bit. We don't really take vacations very often. So it was like vacation.
Yeah, I think that's one of the cool parts about competing is that you get a weekend in a new place. Now, granted, Friday, Saturday, you're chilling, you're just doing, whatever you got to do for your show. But then after your show's over, kicking back, enjoying a nice evening, the next day you're exploring, and then you get to go home, and it feels like you had a mini little getaway for sure because you got to explore somewhere new.
Yeah, it really is. And when we went to Masters Nationals in Pittsburgh, they actually had Picklesburg going on. It was like a pickle
Oh,
festival.
that's
Um, I
awesome.
know, it was so fun. So we got to like walk around and like there's like pickle stuff everywhere. And it just made it more fun. And yeah, we've gotten to experience things that we definitely would never have experienced otherwise. So I mean, that's another part of what I love so much about bodybuilding is it really opens up your world. Um, when it comes to traveling to new places and meeting new people and making new friends and experiencing things that, you otherwise wouldn't really get to experience and makes you kind of step outside of your comfort zone. So it's been a blessing in that regard too.
Definitely. I think it also changed my perspective on traveling and allowed me to see because I traveled a lot as a kid, and when you travel as a kid, you're not on a diet or anything, but like traveling as an adult who lives this lifestyle and you're doing it for a show, it kind of helped me to see like, I can actually do this while exploring and having fun and having a good time. It doesn't have to be, oh, we got to go here and we got to do this. It can just be chill and explore and walk around town, and that's good and that's rejuvenating in its own way.
Yeah. And I think that's one of our favorite things to do, even when we're just traveling regularly, is we love to like walk around the little shops. And one time I took my husband to Vegas as like a birthday present, and we only stayed for like 3 or 4 days, I think. Or maybe it was just 3 days. So we really didn't give ourselves any time to like adjust to the time change. But we walked like like we got up in the morning and we just walked through like every hotel and like we like barely even ate because we wanted to see everything. We had a very short amount of time.
I love
And he loved it and I loved it. And other people probably think we're so weird because that's like all we did while we were there.
yeah.
But yeah, we like to walk around new places.
So fun. That's what me and Sean do too. Like, because we've been long distance, we traveled a lot, and that's where we would meet at different maybe events or things going on, and that's how it always ended up going. And it was just so nice. It's like, what gym can we go to? Like, what little town, like Main Street, can we explore?
Yeah.
It's just
Uh-huh.
fun, and I think there's an appreciation for the little things. And I also something you said earlier that I was like, whoa, I need to remember that. You said that your business has actually been helped by the competing because competing has given you an even bigger lens. And you said you don't always need to be going for huge, right? You can go for medium, you can go for big, you can even go for small as long as you're able to maintain and enjoy your life outside of that as well. So, given that your business is very trend based and your business has expanded since its inception, what is the vision you see for your business moving forward?
Hmm. Um, I don't know. Honestly, so within our industry, so we're in the wedding industry, which is very trend based. Um, and we're e-commerce. And a lot of our business comes from Etsy. And Etsy as a marketplace has been making a lot of changes internally and with how they want their sales diversified amongst sellers. There's a lot of weird manipulation going on behind the scenes with like the search engines and things. I don't We don't have as much control as we used to over our own store and like sales. Um so um we do, yeah. So we don't have as much control anymore. It becomes frustrating sometimes, because the efforts that we put in are not rewarded in the way that it used to be. So I don't know. We're trying to come to a place where we're okay with a lower volume of sales and a lower number of staff, which we have right now, and being able to make the most of that, without trying so hard to just grow and grow, but to be okay with just maintaining a smaller amount of sales, smaller amount of staff, kind of shrinking the overhead a little bit, to where we're like making the same amount of money with less work, I think is the goal. And yeah, that it's kind of because, and honestly, ever since COVID, everything is so different than it used to be. And it changes every year right now. Like we used to have predictable seasons. We had, holidays and then like a dip, and then wedding season would pick up, and then we would have a little bit of a dip, and then holidays would pick up again. And I could predict to the number, like what our sales would be every year. And then COVID hit. And ever since then, I can't predict a single thing anymore, even now. It's weird. And so we're kind of month to month at this point. Like we're just figuring it out as we go. And we owned the building that we were operating out of. So whenever people hear about our business, they think that we're like in our garage making little signs, but it's actually become like a really big operation, and we run like a little factory. And so we purchased a warehouse that we were operating out of, and then we had like some empty bays that we were renting out to other businesses. But because like as we grew, we would add another bay for ourselves. And they weren't always side by side. We have like one on this side, one in the middle, one on the other side. And then employees are jumping from one to the other, walking around all day. And it became like really disorganized and a lot of inefficient things going on. And then also we had to pay for internet separately in every single bay. And it's become way inefficient. And we realized that if we could get everything under one roof, that things would be a lot better and reduce our overhead. So we ended up selling our building, and we closed on it like 2 days before my show this year, which was kind of another like exciting thing.
For your pro card win.
It was before the warm-up show, before the pro card win. So now we have a lease at a new facility, and we're currently building it out, and we plan on moving in within like the next 3 weeks, probably. So yeah, and we signed a 3-year lease. So at least for the next 3 years, we're going to be doing what we're doing, but most likely we'll keep going after that. But yeah, we just kind of have to take it day by day.
Yeah, definitely. And I think moving facilities would be incredibly stressful. I just moved house, and I'm like, well, I moved from an apartment into a house, but still moving is hard, let alone when you have employees who are used to certain systems, you have orders still coming in, you have things that you need to actually take care of, and then you're like, and half of this stuff we probably don't even need.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's actually going to feel so nice once we are moved and like can get rid of things. And since we've like just like added things as we grew, like our offices were very like mishmash, like an IKEA desk and like this weird thing I brought from home, and like nothing was very like cohesive. So now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna actually have an office with like things I planned, like put together. So we're gonna make it all make sense, and it's gonna be nice.
You deserve that. Plus, like, you've done such a great job building this business. Like it'll be so nice and relief to know that everything's where it needs to be, and you've built something you're really excited about showing up for.
Yeah, yeah. And it probably will end up refreshing us all to where we create, the creative juices will flow more, and then we'll create new things that sell more. And then we'll have to be like forcing ourselves to not, grow and grow and grow.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, talk to us about what is this business? And because I understand it from our conversations, but I want listeners to know, and maybe how they can even learn about how they can work with you or order.
Yeah. So when my husband and I got married, he had this weird little CNC machine in our garage that he'd like gotten from one of his friends, and he was always playing around on it. And I was like, can you cut out like wooden numbers? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, let's make some table numbers that are like 3D standing wooden numbers for our tables. Because at the time, all there was like paper, So he made them, and it was like 2 days before our wedding. We were like spray painting these numbers on our driveway. And when we used them, the like venue planner, she was like obsessed with them, and she's like, "Oh my God, can I keep them?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you can have them." And then our photographer got like an amazing picture of one of them. And like just the feedback that we got from the planner girl, and then that really pretty picture made me be like, let me try listing this on Etsy and see, maybe someone will sell. And it took a few months of them being listed for like for them to like, I don't know, climb and search or whatever. But they started selling. And we started making them and shipping them, and then more would sell and more would sell. And eventually our entire house was like covered in numbers all day. And then we added, like, we'd have people request, like, well, can you do a name? And can you do this? And then we ended up having to get a bigger machine, and then getting a space outside of our house because we didn't have room anymore. And it just kind of like grew like that. So, and so we were literally the first people on earth to make numbers for table numbers that were 3D, like standing, like not made of paper. And then people started copying us, which is fine. But that just it forced us to be creative and come up with new things again and again. So we do table numbers, signs, like, the cool acrylic welcome signs you see, place cards, stir sticks, like, those bar signs. I don't know how much you're looking at wedding stuff yet, but you can find our stuff all over Pinterest. Like, there's bar signs that have like watercolor dog drawings on them. Like, we do those. And we print on acrylic, and then we have wooden things, and we do laser cuts. So yeah, tons of wedding and party decor. And then when everything happened with COVID and like sales started slowing down on that front, we were kind of forced to think outside the box on other avenues of revenue. So we started doing more local work, which allowed us to go bigger, because before we had to make sure everything could be shipped. So now we do like installations. So seating charts are having like this really big moment right now.
Yeah.
Like really big seating chart installations, like those big arches that you see at weddings. So we've been doing a lot of those, which has been really fun. And it's like it's kind of like competing, right? Like, my husband and I get to take on these jobs and design these backdrops, and then travel out of town to go set them up for somebody. And then, so we set them up, and then we leave so that they can have their wedding. And then we get to like, go walk around downtown somewhere and have some food, and then come back in the middle of the night and break it all down. So it's like fun little getaways for us too. But yeah, so we do wedding and party decorations. And then also we have so I have all of my stores listed in my link tree on Instagram. There's the wedding store, and then we have a gift store. And we have a store that has just like names, wooden names, mostly for like kid bedroom decorations. And then I added another store with like just acrylic cutouts for like place cards and things. But our biggest seller during the holidays are stocking name tags. They're like little wooden cutouts of names that you put on your stockings. And those things, those things are our saving grace during the holidays. And they're so cute. And yeah, those things are cool.
That's so awesome. I love how it has blossomed into so many other things, and you guys have we have a visitor. I love it.
I'm barking at somebody.
Lab, the infamous lab.
Yeah. Buzz. Sorry.
Buzz. That's
Buzz.
such a thing.
Buzz Lightyear.
Oh, well, I just think it's awesome how much your business has expanded in that way. And you guys have been so creative and come up with other ideas. And also, like, I'm going to ask you for all that stuff at the end, but it's nice to know people can contact you and even order that for gifts. It's kind of perfect timing since your episode's coming out in late October as well.
I know it is. Go get your stocking names.
And it's such a nice thing too. Like, you guys, I love this about the podcast is like we get to give business owners a platform too. Like, it's just a great way to support the athletes that you enjoy hearing their stories. Like, a little goes a long way, you know? So anyways, with that being said, Holly, let's talk a bit about what is happening now. I mean, you're shifting focus to your business. You are needing to prioritize your gut health. So how has this post show looked different compared to maybe the past because of that?
So this reverse, it's different in a few ways. So for one, I don't have a coach now. I had her for a few weeks post show, but then, you know, there was no point renewing for just a few weeks, considering that I'm taking some time. So yeah, so I'm kind of self-guiding myself at this point. And I think it was like 2 weeks maybe after the show, I ended up getting COVID. And it was taking a lot of Advil. It was like the only thing that kept me feeling alive. And normally I am like, I don't take Advil for anything or Tylenol. I'm not someone who really loves to take medications. And that, I think, on top of just like the stresses and maybe some other things. So I think prep in general puts you in a vulnerable spot for developing gut dysbiosis. And I think having gotten COVID and then taking Advil on top of that exacerbated the situation and caused like this eruption of I'm thinking it's a SIBO situation. And I think I needed that eruption for me to be like, okay, I actually have to address this. In all of my reverses in the past, I've always had an issue with like weird bloating happening for several months post-show. And this is the first time that I'm actually addressing it properly, I think. Hopefully, we'll see. So I do believe that I developed SIBO. And the more that I'm learning about it, the more I'm realizing how it happened. And I do think that it's something that all of us competitors maybe should be on the lookout for during prep. And I mean, I guess all the time because of the things that we put our body through. But especially during prep, I mean, your food variety goes down. Our gut motility slows down. Our metabolism is slowing down. Some of us are eating a lot of artificial sugars. And there's just all these factors that start coming into play that all contribute to bacterial overgrowth. And so now I put myself on a gut protocol to try to get that under control. But then after having gotten COVID, several weeks later, my ears got really, really infected and I had to go on antibiotics, which then also can lead to SIBO situation. So, so I had started a protocol, then did antibiotics, and now I'm having to like restart the protocol. And yeah, I don't know. It's a work in progress. I'm trying to figure it out. And I was trying to think, like, I don't know, honestly, if there's anything that we could do to prevent this happening. Like, I was trying to think in my head, like I don't think there's anything my coach did wrong, or I don't think there's anything necessarily that I did wrong. I think that we all just need to be on the lookout for when something like this comes up. And then to be able to take charge to research what we need to do to fix it, or to have somebody that we can help us address it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Because I mean, it's not, we're paying our coaches to bring us in for a contest. You know, we're not paying them to be our doctor, and they're not doctors. We can't expect them to care for us like doctors. And so some of that we have to find on our own or do on our own. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. Trying to get it under control.
Yeah, it's a difficult place to be in, but it'll pay off. And um, I know this is like a big hot topic lately in the industry too, because I feel like a lot of us who have been in it for a while are like, better address this because now it's actually caused problems. And
Yeah.
I think too, you add on top of that the increase of maybe antibiotic usage or different illnesses that have come up to cause that. It can definitely just wreak havoc on our gut. Like that's what happened to me. And so we're in a similar boat. I think that it'll be worth it and it'll make us better athletes in the long run, just better feeling people too.
Yeah. Yeah.
We influence our gut in a positive way. So I appreciate you sharing that as well. And I think that so much of what you've displayed here is that resilience and that commitment and understanding of what you need to do to get where you want to go. But there was one area I didn't get to talk to you about yet that I was hoping you could share your experience in before I get to your best advice. And that is your pregnancy. You mentioned your second pregnancy. You were on bed rest. So what was going on and how did that affect you mentally to have to be on bed rest? And physically you said you lost muscle, but what was that like?
Well, I had two things come up. I forget what it was called in the beginning. I had like a lot of bleeding in the beginning of that pregnancy. Um, and I forget the medical name for it, but like the placenta was tearing away from the uterus wall, I think. But then it reattached itself. But when it reattached itself, I had placenta previa. So it was like blocking the exit pretty much. So I had no choice but to have a C-section. And I, because it was not really in the correct area, I had to be very careful because I could go into labor or have like bleeding episodes. So it was so long ago now, but I had a couple of bleeding episodes, which then I was forced on bed rest. It was just scary. I mean, I wasn't in the gym or in competitive mode or anything at that time, so I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything. Before that, I was like always at work, always. So it forced me to delegate things and to kind of pull myself away from the things that were unnecessary and like only address the necessary things. So in that regard, it was kind of good because there were a lot of things I was doing that maybe weren't necessary. And our shop realized that they could survive without me. So that was kind of nice. But yeah, it was just a scary time, and I ended up having him a month early. But he was totally healthy, and he was like a perfect size. Like, probably thank goodness he came out a month early.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he never had to go to the NICU or anything. He was good to go. So yeah, it was just it was a scary time. I think because in the beginning of that pregnancy, we were so afraid that we were going to lose it, that it made us appreciate him a little more. I mean, you always appreciate your babies, but like it, we were so close to not having him that we were very thankful and grateful for everything working out the way that it did, you know?
Yeah, I imagine that would increase like the excitement and the happiness and the gratitude, because there was a chance it could have been taken away from you and it
Yeah.
wasn't.
Yeah. And I mean, we love and appreciate both of our kids, you know? So,
For the record.
yeah.
Love that. No, that's beautiful. I mean, we can even argue your first child made it so clear and beautiful, and what a blessing it is to have a child, that the possibility of losing your second child upon conception would have been really, really sad and terrible, and you know what you would have been losing. So it's even more beautiful and amazing that you did it.
Yeah. Yeah. We're glad that things worked out the way that they did.
Yeah.
It's good.
I love that. Well, you just have such a heart of gratitude. And I feel like we've talked about like everything under the sun, I think. So, did I forget to ask you anything, or should I have asked you anything that I didn't?
Um, I don't know. I think we covered a lot.
Yeah, so there we go. We finally got to do our episode, but I have to wrap up the episode by getting your best advice. So, what is your best advice for someone who has never competed before but would like to? And then your best advice for someone on their road to pro?
I would say for someone who hasn't competed but would like to go to a show and see it in person. I think a lot of times people think that it's something that they can't do, that the people up there are like so much better than them. And like I've talked to girls before who are like, well, I have cellulite, so I can't do that. I'm like, well, we all do. Like it, that you have to see it in person. It's not as you have to see, and then you'll realize like, okay, this is something that you can do. And then for someone on the road to pro, it would be long off seasons, I think, to appreciate your growing time um, and try, like, don't get overexcited to get on stage. Realize that you have to put the time in, and just know that you'll get there. It just might take some time. And the more time that you take off, the better the end result is going to be. Like, even if it's just a few extra months, I know we're all itching to get on stage. But even a few extra months of building can make a pretty big difference, and might be the difference between getting the pro card and not getting it.
Love that. That's such good advice and empowering for those of us who are in our growth season for that reason. So, can you let everybody know how they can follow your journey and eventually even purchase from your store?
Yeah. So I'm most active on Instagram. I'm not as active as I should be, but I try. So I'm Holly Z Create. And our business Instagram is Z Create Design and Golden Hour Rentals FL, Florida. And in my bio, there's a link tree that has like all of our shop links. And yeah, I try to post as much as I can, but it's crazy. Life gets crazy. I don't have a social person anymore. It's just
Yeah.
me.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to chat with me and do this episode.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited to have gotten to do this. And I hope I said some things that can inspire some people. And
Absolutely. Of course you did. Your story is so inspiring, and the way that you broke it down for us gives us a lot of insight into all these experiences that have led to your success now and also moving forward.
yay.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Well, I hope that you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world where you're listening to this episode.